Alright, I'm just gonna get to the point. Parasites in the past were off that prehistoric crack. There is no other explanation for how a goddamn bug the size of Gorlock the Destroyer climbs to the highest point it can find, locks into place like it's about to give a TED Talk, and then just lets its head explode, spraying fungal blood mist on everything below like it's catering a baby shower in hell. The prehistoric parasite in question, you might ask? A mushroom. Yeah, shit was called cordyceps. Modern cordyceps already fucks ants up, turns them into zombies. But prehistoric cordyceps? That was the unpatched version. The one that shipped before anyone read the warning labels. Here's the play. Spores get in, through a cut, through a breath, through whatever microscopic back door you left unlocked. Once it's in, you're cooked. The fungus doesn't kill you right away. That'd be merciful. That'd be professional. No, it keeps you breathing, needs those legs working. Your body just got a new tenant and he didn't sign a lease. So it starts threading through your guts like the world's worst electrician. Wraps around your nerves, slides up your spine, moves into your brain and starts deleting files. And every thought you've ever had, food, sex, survival, that thing you said in 6th grade that still keeps you up at night, gets replaced with one command. Climb, bitch. And you climb, no questions. Then you hit altitude. The fungus checks the GPS, goes, yeah, this'll do, and your head detonates. I'm talking your skull just pops like someone sat on a Capri Sun. Dome files for divorce from your neck. Your cranium and every shitty thought you ever had achieve escape velocity in under a second. So why does it make your head go pop? So everyone else can join you in the popping session. Fungus runs a referral program and you just became the spokesperson. Spores rain down. Biological glitter bomb at a gender reveal nobody asked for. Everyone below just got drafted and initiated into being officially cooked. Just spores in the face and a countdown timer. And what made it worse? Prehistoric bugs had zero defense. These things were huge and dumb, running immune systems coded in Microsoft Paint. Cordyceps spreads faster than my nudes in a group chat. Modern Cordyceps is the PG-13 reboot where nobody actually dies on screen. Prehistoric Cordyceps was the original R-rated cut where everyone dies, nobody learns anything. But I'd rather have my head explode than get infected with... God looked at intestines and said, you know what would be funny? Modern tapeworms are already nightmare fuel. They're parasites that look like if someone unspooled a VHS tape and gave it a digestive system. They live in your guts for decades, laying eggs like it's a full-time job, feeding off every meal you eat. And you don't even know they're there until one day you shit out what looks like fettuccine that's still moving. But prehistoric tapeworms? Those operated on a different tax bracket. Because when your landlord is a 9-ton apex predator called a T-Rex, you don't stay modest, you go big. We're talking 30 plus feet. For the slow ones in the back, that's about the size of a school bus, maybe longer. And get this, it's only 2 inches wide, flat, thin enough to slide under a door. And it doesn't even have a mouth. This thing absorbs food through its skin like osmosis. Your intestines just became its all-you-can-eat buffet, and it doesn't even need to chew. The move was simple, get inside, doesn't matter how. Infected meat, dirty water, poor decision-making at 3 a.m., once you're in, you latch onto the intestinal wall with hooks and just start expanding. 1 segment becomes 2, 2 becomes 10, 10 becomes a biological assembly line. Each segment is basically a mobile egg factory pumping out millions of eggs per day. And when it's done, it just drops those segments. They pass through your shit to infect the next host. We're talking better production numbers than an Amazon warehouse and a more efficient distribution system than FedEx. And the dinosaur? Completely unaware. Still out here eating everything, stomping around, posting on Maine like it runs the whole ecosystem. Meanwhile, there's a 60-foot squatter living in its gut, skimming off every meal like a crypto bro with access to your wallet. And it's not just stealing meals, it's stealing your vitamins, specifically B12. You're out here tired, brain dead, can't remember where you parked, and it's because a sentient tape measure in your guts is eating better than you ever will. The host starts moving slower, looking skinnier. Still dangerous, yeah, but running on fumes while the worms out here eating Michelin star nutrients off your plate. We know this actually happened because scientists cracked open fossilized dinosaur shit, coprolites if you want to sound educated at parties, and found thousands of tapeworm eggs just sitting there like evidence in a cold case. Meaning this wasn't a rare event, this was the norm. Dinosaurs weren't just apex predators, they were walking Costco sample tables getting quietly robbed by a roommate who never moved out and somehow got on the lease. Oh, and just to make it worse, you can have multiple. Your intestines aren't a single family family home. They're a whole apartment complex, and every tenant refuses to leave. This parasite can live longer than most marriages. You could get infected in college and still be feeding this thing when you're picking out retirement homes. Sometimes the scariest thing about a T-Rex wasn't what it could do to you. It was the fact that something was doing worse to it from the inside and it didn't even know. Oh, and I almost forgot. 60 feet? That's cute. Some species can grow over 100 feet. That's a third of a football field living in something's intestines.
Bruh.
At that point, it's not a parasite, it's a tenant with rights. And in prehistoric dinosaurs that were even bigger, probably worse. Prehistoric tapeworms weren't parasites, they were long-term investors with zero empathy and a bulletproof business model. Same as this next one, the eye-drilling copepod, a parasitic crustacean from 400 million years ago that specialized in one thing, your fucking eyeball. These things had sensors, not eyes, sensors. Chemical detectors that could smell eye fluid from across the reef like a shark smells blood. Except instead of biting you and leaving, this thing moves in permanently. Picture this, you're a fish, minding your business. Then you feel something land on your face. You blink, it's still there. You blink again, still there. Because it just installed itself into your eye socket with hooks, and it's not asking permission. Now here's where it gets bad. This wasn't a quick kill. This was a long-term lease. The copepod would start feeding on the blood vessels in your eye, just snacking, slowly, taking its time. And you're awake for all of it because guess what? Fish don't have eyelids that close all the way. You're just stuck watching the world get blurry while something eats your vision from the inside. Your eye starts clouding over. Not all at once, slowly, like someone smearing Vaseline on a window, except the window is your cornea and you can feel every second of it. And because why not? These fuckers would go for both eyes. Left eye, right eye, didn't matter. If there was real estate available, they were moving in. Some fish got hit so bad they had copepods on their eyes and their gills. Full infestation. Every part of your face that processes oxygen or light just got colonized by a crustacean with zero empathy and a long-term business plan. Oh, and they weren't small. Modern copepods? Tiny, barely visible. Prehistoric ones? The size of your thumb. You'd be able to see this thing from across the reef. Just a whole-ass shrimp bolted to someone's face like a biological billboard advertising bad decisions. And they didn't just sit there, they'd dig deeper. Once the surface wasn't enough, they'd start burrowing toward the optic nerve, toward the brain, like they're trying to upgrade from a studio apartment to a penthouse and your skull is the building. But wait, it gets dumber. Once they settled in and got comfortable, they'd reproduce, lay eggs, right there, on your eyeball. You're not just a host anymore, you're a nursery. You're literally watching their kids, while the first one's still eating your retinas like it's brunch. And the worst part? You'd stay alive through all of it. Weeks, months, maybe longer, just swimming around half blind with a crustacean family living in your face. And there's nothing you can do about it except keep swimming like you're Dory and hope you don't run into something because your depth perception is gone. Modern copepods still exist, sure, but they're the nerfed version. Smaller, weaker, easier to fight off, bigger hooks, stronger grip, and simply didn't give a fuck. But why go for eyes when you can also go for the tongue, like my good friend called? Pentastamids, also known as tongue worms. And before you ask, yes, they're exactly as fucked up as that sounds. These things have been around for 400 million years. Started in the Devonian, infecting fish, then graduated to amphibians, then reptiles. Basically, kept climbing the evolutionary ladder like they were collecting Pokemon badges. These fuckers would literally migrate, burrow through your intestinal wall, hitch a ride through your bloodstream, and end up in your lungs, or your nasal cavity, or their favorite, the throat. And then they just stay there, growing, wriggling, feeding on mucus, blood, and whatever tissue they can scrape off with their hooked mouth. You truly gotta understand how fucked this is, unless you're an absolute freak throat goat. Having something 12 plus inches of segmented nightmare coiled up in your windpipe like a biological garden hose isn't exactly a 5-star experience, especially when it doesn't come out. And yeah, that shit isn't coming out because like the others, it has hooks and it latches onto your throat windpipe. So yeah, your throat will be swelling, breathing will get harder, you're wheezing, choking, trying to pull in air, but there's a worm the size of a BBC living in your trachea and it's not moving. And the worst part? You can feel it every time it shifts, every time it feeds, every time those hooks scrape against the inside of your throat. And yeah, they start f***ing inside your throat too, cause why not? While we at it, let's lay about 500,000 to several million eggs inside your shit too. And as obvious, some hosts would suffocate, slow asphyxiation as the worm blocked more and more airflow. Others would develop infections, open wounds in the throat that bacteria just loved. Either way, you're dying while something rides in your windpipe, and there's no Heimlich maneuver for this. Early amphibians and reptiles had it the worst. They were just figuring out how to breathe air, and these parasites were already waiting in the lungs like, welcome to land, here's your nightmare. And yes, similar to the others, modern tongue worms still exist. They infect snakes, crocodiles, and occasionally humans. But prehistoric ones? Well, unless you're into that stuff, you'll be taking 12 inches down your windpipe. Permanently. Alright, we've talked about parasites one at a time like civilized people, but fuck that, let's get nasty. What if one T-Rex got absolutely raw-dogged by every single parasite we just discussed? All at once, no lube, no mercy. Pure biological violation on a scale that would make God file a restraining order. We're talking cordyceps in the brain, a 30-foot tapeworm in the guts, copepods drilling both eyeballs, and a 12-inch tongue worm living in the throat. This isn't a dinosaur anymore. This is a 9-ton meat suit being piloted by a council of parasites who can't agree on anything except that this bitch is staying alive until they're done with it. Let's walk through the timeline of suffering. Day 1. The T-Rex eats bad meat, drinks contaminated water, breathes in spores. Every entrance to its body just got breached simultaneously like it's a coordinated invasion and nobody called for backup. Tapeworm eggs hatch in the stomach. Copepod larvae get in through a wound. Tongueworm spores hit the lungs. Cordyceps lands on an open cut. The Rex feels fine. This is the calm before the apocalypse. Week 2. The tapeworm's already 10 feet long, growing a foot a day, stealing nutrients like it's got a direct deposit set up. The Rex is eating constantly, ripping apart triceratops, swallowing whole hadrosaurs, but somehow losing weight, ribs starting to show. Doesn't understand. Just knows it's starving no matter how much it eats. Month 1. Copepods reach the eyes, both of them. Start drilling. Left eye goes cloudy first, then the right. Vision's fucked. Depth perception? Gone. The Rex is walking into trees, missing prey, tripping over rocks. Other dinosaurs are starting to notice. This apex predator is moving like it's drunk. Month 2. The tongueworm's fully grown now. 12 inches of segmented nightmare coiled in the windpipe. Every breath sounds like a broken vacuum cleaner. The Rex is wheezing, choking, coughing, trying to spit it out, but it won't budge because it's got hooks and it paid the security deposit. At this point, the T-Rex is half blind, starving despite eating everything, choking on its own throat, and it's about to get so much worse. Month 3. Cordyceps reaches the brain, starts rewriting the code, deletes hunt, deletes eat, deletes survive, replaces everything with one command: climb. The T-Rex, blind, starving, suffocating, suddenly has an uncontrollable urge to go up. It doesn't know why, it just knows it has to, so it starts climbing. A hill, a ridge, doesn't matter, just up. Falls, gets up, climbs again. Other dinosaurs watch like, bro, what the fuck is wrong with you? But the Rex can't answer because there's a worm in its throat and a fungus in its brain and nothing makes sense anymore. Month 4. The Rex finally makes it to the top. Barely standing, skeleton visible through the skin because the tapeworm took everything. Eyes are just milky voids with crustaceans waving from inside. Throats making sounds that don't belong in nature. And then the cordyceps says, "Aight, that'll do," and the T-Rex's head detonates. Skull splits, brain matter goes airborne, spores explode outward like a biological grenade. Every dinosaur in a half-mile radius just got a face full of "Congratulations, you're next." But here's the fucked up part. The body doesn't fall. It just stands there, headless, still breathing through the tongueworm because the lungs are still running on autopilot. Tapeworms still draining blood from the organs. Copepods still feeding on the eyes that aren't even there anymore. The body stays upright for minutes. Just a 9-ton puppet held together by parasites that refuse to let go because they're not done yet. They're never done. Finally, it collapses. Hits the ground like a building demolition. Dust cloud, bone-shaking impact. And even then, the tapeworm's still alive, wriggling inside the carcass. The copepods are still latched on. The tongueworm's still coiled in the throat. They ride that corpse all the way to fossilization because they signed a lease and they're seeing it through.